You may be seated. Today recognize the presence of the jury.
Yes, sir.
And does the defense.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Did you follow all of my previous instructions not to discuss this case among yourselves nor with anyone else?
Yes.
Did you also follow my instruction not to read, watch, or listen to any news accounts or do any internet research?
Yes.
Thank you very much. The defense may call the next witness.
Thank you. Officer David Monfort. Solemnly swear the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God.
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
David Montfort, M-O-N-T-F-O-R-T,
And where do you work?
Orlando Police Department,
In what capacity?
a police officer.
Okay. Do you work patrol?
Not anymore.
Okay. What do you work now?
I'm a school resource officer.
Now, back on August 24th of 2007, were you working for the Orlando Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
In what capacity?
I was a field training officer in patrol.
And on that day, did you have an occasion to come in contact with somebody named Jason Rodriguez?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you come in contact with him?
We were sent to South Cimarron near Lee Vista Boulevard about a suspicious person in the roadway.
I'm sorry?
Suspicious person in the roadway.
In the roadway.
Correct.
Okay. And based on your interaction with Mr. Rodriguez, what did you do?
Ultimately, we completed a Baker Act, transported him to a mental health care facility.
What is the Baker Act?
Involuntary commitment for a mental health evaluation.
Okay. And is there a certain criteria you have to follow when deciding to Baker Act somebody?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that criteria?
We have to believe that they are a likelihood to pose a danger to themselves or someone else, or potentially could neglect themselves
Okay.
in a way that would be harmful to them.
And so then you, where did you take Mr. Rodriguez exactly?
One of the lakeside facilities located off Mercy Drive.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Cross.
Just briefly, Officer Monfort, this was August 24th of 2007.
Correct.
No further questions.
Can you redirect?
Yes, sir.
May the officer be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, officer. You may be excused, sir.
Thank you.
Defense may call the next witness.
Anna Rodriguez. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Married?
Your name
Anna, A-N-N-A,
and spell your last name.
R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z.
All right. And what relationship are you to Jason Rodriguez?
I'm his mother.
Do you have any other children?
Yes.
And what are their names?
Francis, Carmen Rodriguez, and Stephen Samuel Rodriguez.
And as far as Jason Rodriguez, what order is he in birth order?
Second child.
Now, since Jason's become an adult, have you ever had an occasion to move in with him?
Excuse me?
Have you ever had an occasion to move in with Jason since he's been an adult?
Yes.
And do you know how long you've lived with Jason as an adult?
As an adult, it had to be more than 3 years.
Okay. And was that consistently or was that off and on?
There were times that it was off, but it was more on.
Okay. And so you were able to see him every day?
Yes.
And do you remember the years that you lived with him?
Yes, kind of.
Okay. Could you tell us what you remember? What years?
I remember 2005, 2006, 7, 8, and 9.
All right. Now, did Jason have any hobbies?
Yes.
And what were some of his hobbies?
He liked to go fishing and hunting.
Hunting. Did he have guns for hunting?
Yes.
All right. And what happened to those guns?
I had those taken away in 2007
Why?
because I began to notice that my son was saying he was going to kill himself. He was suicidal.
Okay. Has your son ever been Baker active before?
Yes.
How many times?
In 2007, I think once after that.
So how many times total?
I would say about 2, but I remember him being in the hospital 3 times.
Okay. Now, do you know anything about your son's work history? Where he worked, businesses?
I'm not exact on places or addresses, but I know that he always worked.
Okay. And did he ever discuss any issues with you about work?
No,
Like problems he might have been having at work?
no,
Never talked to you about that?
no.
And does your son have any physical limitations or issues?
I'm quite not understanding.
Okay. Does your son have any physical diseases?
Yes.
What are they?
Well, since he was 16, he's had low blood sugar problems, and he was suffering migraine headaches, and he was going to some things, depression.
You said low blood sugar. Is that hypoglycemic?
Yes,
So it's important for him to eat
yes,
and keep the blood sugar up.
yes.
Now, does he have any mental health issues?
I didn't think so, although some things happened that I failed to see the signs. looking for device.
I'm sorry.
Actually, may I approach
You may.
the witness? Ms. Rodriguez, I'm showing you what's been marked State's Exhibit 25. Could you take a look at that?
Yes.
And what is that a picture of?
The counter area
In what?
in our kitchen there, my kitchen.
In what apartment?
Hollowbrook Apartments.
Okay. And in this picture, are there pots on the stove?
Yes, I only had one though, but I don't know what, it seems like he made something here.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. And then I'm looking at a kind of a plaque leaning against the wall and what appears, could you tell us what's above that plaque?
There's a hole there.
And what is that hole from?
When I inquired about it, he was looking for devices.
May I publish just to the jury? Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm pointing to right above this plaque is where you say this hole is. We'll get back to the other pot in just a moment. So, when you inquired about the hole, I'm sorry, so there were listening devices, is that correct?
He was looking for devices because he was hearing voices.
Okay. Now, I want to take you to November 6th of 2009. Do you remember that night leading into the day?
Yes, and there were also some things that he was doing.
Okay. What happened that night leading into the morning of November 6th of 2009?
Did I mention to you that he was cutting matches?
We'll talk about that in a moment.
All right.
Tell
what
me
happened
about,
that morning,
yes.
just before the crack of dawn. It's very hard for me to talk about it.
It's okay.
I get up a lot, and he wasn't sleeping.
I need you to talk into the microphone, please.
If you'll lean forward, ma'am, and talk in the mic so the jurors
Sure.
can hear you.
Sure. Just before the crack of dawn, I hadn't been sleeping because I was really concerned about all this that was going on. I got up to go to the restroom, and he was in his bed with the door open, something he never did before, but he could see directly from there to the front door.
What do you mean something he never did before?
He always closed his door to sleep,
Okay.
but he wasn't doing that anymore for some time. So the door was open, and he would keep an eye on the front door, which was down the hall, front door. And I got up from the living room where I slept from the futon, and the kitchen was directly in front of me, but I made a left to go to the restroom, and I went in there. I didn't get to go in. I was halfway there when he gets up, he turns around, and he's pointing a gun at me. And
What did you do?
I screamed to the top of my lungs, and in Spanish, I threw myself back. In Spanish, I said, "Jason, Jason, Jason, it's me, Mom. Mom, don't be afraid, it's Mom."
And when he was pointing a gun at you, what was his facial expression?
His eyes were bulging out. He was sweating, he was trembling, and he went like this when I started yelling. And he noticed that, he somehow recognized my voice.
Okay. And so what did he do with the gun after that?
He came up to me and apologized. He put the gun down. I don't remember where, but he came up to me and apologized to me. And I said, "Don't be afraid, son," Spanish, "don't be afraid. Try to get some sleep."
Okay.
But I really got concerned. My concern turned into worry.
Now, you said that he wasn't sleeping, but you said he was laying on the bed.
Yes,
So,
because he was trying to sleep, but he couldn't. So the DVD was probably on, and he was facing the wall. I could see his back, but the slightest noise that I made, that's what got him out of there.
okay.
Now, let's talk about later that morning. Did there come a time when Mr. Rodriguez left the apartment?
Yes.
Do you remember what time that was?
It might have been before 9. He was punctual. Could have been after 9.
Do you recall what he was wearing that day?
His normal clothing. He had a little jacket that I don't remember. I think it had no sleeves. I don't remember. I really don't recall, but he was dressed normal to me.
Okay. And do you know where he was going that day?
To run some errands.
Do you know specifically where?
Well, during the week there had been talk about having to go to the unemployment, having to go to a sit down on the chat on the new registration for the masters he was trying to do at Ana G. Mendez University, and some other things.
Okay. So, after he left, when was the next time you saw him?
When he came back,
And what were you doing when he came back?
I think I was in the kitchen because I was trying to cook.
All right. So, if I show you again. State's Exhibit 25. You said there were some pots on the stove?
Yes, one.
All right. Which one had you been cooking with?
I can't recall, but it was one.
Okay, I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 24. It's a side view.
I can't recall which one it was, but it was one.
Okay, so you were cooking with one pot.
Yes.
And he came home, do you remember what time?
I didn't look specifically at a time, but it was anywhere from 12:30 or a little after
Okay.
to 1:30 or a little after.
And was he wearing the same thing as when he left?
Yes, because I would have noticed any change.
Okay. Now, when Jason came home, was he acting in any particular way?
Well, I heard the key when he tried to open up. I went to the door. He came in. His eyes had that vacant look that I've been noticing. And he came in. He went to the bedroom. I had just moved in. I had been doing some chores and things. And at one point, I remember him in the kitchen. But then I was going to I couldn't find my phone. And I believe that phone rang that day, and that's how I found it.
Okay, let's go back to Jason. When he got home, was the TV on or off?
I always keep the TV on.
Okay, and what kind of channels do you keep the TV on?
News. My whole family knows all I watch is news.
All right. And so you said Jason came in, he had a vacant look on his face?
Yes.
All right. And at some point you said, I think he was in the kitchen?
When he came in, he said something before he went in. Can I say it?
Do you remember what he said?
Yes. He said,
And,
it could have been 10.
all right. After you left the apartment, where did you go?
I wanted to go to I had been down to the leasing office twice before he even got home. They were closed. And somehow I found my phone. It rang. And when he got there, after a while, I got ready
No, Ms. Rodriguez, after you left, where did you go?
to the store.
Which store?
Albertsons at the time.
And did you drive directly to Albertsons, or did you stop anywhere else?
Actually, since I was new there, I went in through a wrong street. After I made that U-turn to get out, and then I wanted to make the U-turn to go to Albertsons, I went into the wrong street. And I think I may have done that again on the other street. But then I got on the right, and then I saw that I can get into Albertsons from the side there.
Okay. And so when you got to Albertsons, did you make it into the store?
No,
What happened?
I was stopped by police.
And what car were you driving?
My
Which is
car,
what kind of car?
The Hyundai Silva.
All right. And had Mr. Rodriguez been driving your car earlier that day?
Yes, I gave him permission to use my car till we get the tag situation taken care of.
What do you mean by tag situation?
Because when I came home, I noticed that his tag was outdated and he was driving like that. So I told him we'll take care of that.
All right.
But I had him use my car.
And so did the police, when they stopped you, tell you what was going on?
I saw SWAT and everything. I knew it was serious. And I believe I put my window down or opened my door. I don't recall. But they were talking to me.
Okay. And when was the next time you saw Mr. Rodriguez that day?
About 5:30 p.m. late, I went to where they were questioning him.
Where was that? Do you remember?
In the police department by where they used to have the meters, Church Street.
Okay. And how was he acting when you saw him?
To me, he looked tired, and he had that distant eye look that I've always been noticing on him lately. Because one of the things he was doing was staring at the wall and zoning out.
And how long had the zoning out, staring at the wall thing been going on?
Sometimes the periods were short, and sometimes they were long.
But this had it been going on, I mean, days or just that day?
Days.
Since you had been home from Puerto Rico?
When I came home from Puerto Rico, I noticed it.
Okay.
To get his attention was like waking up someone from a deep sleep. It was not easy.
Even though he was sitting up and awake?
Yes.
Now, I want to go back to the hole in the wall, which is on State's Exhibit 25. Had there been holes in walls of other apartments you all have lived in?
Not that way, but what happened is that they have those ceilings that are popcorn ceilings, and those are old apartments. They've been around for years, and they get repainted and things, and there are always little holes and things on them. So he would say that fiber optics would come in through there.
And so what would he do in response?
He tried at first to cut napkin and roll it and push them into those holes. That wasn't strong enough. And another time I caught him with matches, those little matches in the little carts, in the little containers. He was cutting them the long way with a man's razor blade and cutting them in half and putting that into the holes.
Now, was that just in Hollowbrook Apartments, or was that other apartments you all had lived in?
I found that he did that in the Hunts Point, the Harbor Beach, and I found him doing that in Camden and also in the Hollowbrook.
Okay, thank you.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Rodriguez, that you believe your son has a mental illness?
Yes.
And you've believed that for some time, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree that people with mental illnesses need to get treatment,
Yes.
and that they should see doctors,
Yes.
and that they need protection from themselves at times. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And you protect other people from them by making sure they get treatment. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I want to go back to 2007. You talked about having your son's guns taken away from him. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Did you consider that to be an emergency situation?
Yes.
That's why you contacted law enforcement, right?
Yes, he was suicidal.
And you needed immediate help.
Yes.
Emergency like your house is on fire, that important. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
In fact, you called law enforcement around 5:30 in the morning to have that done, right?
I don't recall.
If I showed you your statement, would that remind you of what time you called?
Maybe.
Okay. Can I approach the witness?
You may.
Rodriguez, showing you a copy of your statement from 2007. If you could look specifically at the time that you wrote it and tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to when you called the police.
5:30 in the morning.
Okay, so that sounds right?
But I think that was in the evening, though.
It says 05:30.
Okay, but I think that was in the evening.
Regardless, you called law enforcement.
Yes.
Now, because you called law enforcement, you've shown that you recognize an emergency with your son. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
When you know when he's in trouble, right?
I was beginning to see something, yes.
Okay. And you saw it and you contacted law enforcement. Would you agree in 2007?
Yes.
In fact, you drove him to Florida Hospital East yourself for that Baker Act back in 2007, didn't you?
No.
You didn't.
No.
Who was that?
I think the police or the ambulance.
Okay. Did you drive him to get treatment? You remember doing that?
I went with him to the doctor several times.
Okay. And you made sure he got the treatment back in 2007.
Yes.
And you had his firearms removed.
Yes.
In fact, you called his brother Stephen when that incident occurred, didn't you?
Yes, he lived pretty far.
And Stephen came to where you were and helped get the guns removed, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He wrote a statement too, didn't he?
I told him to start it off for me.
Okay.
I was going home.
And that was an emergency in your mind.
Yes, because he was suicidal.
So, would you agree that your actions demonstrate your belief that people with a mental illness should not have guns?
Let me put it to you this way. When he first got that gun, I wasn't exactly thrilled.
No, but when you saw signs, you wanted the guns taken away
Yes, by 2007.
by 2007. Because he could hurt himself or someone else, right?
No, because he could hurt himself.
You weren't worried about him hurting somebody else.
No, my son, no.
Oh, okay. And you knew after 2007 that if you called police, they would come and take his guns, right?
That's what I was going to ask for.
You were going to ask for that,
Yes, to have
but
that
you never
taken
did
away. Yes, they took it away.
in 2007.
Yes.
All right. Now, you claim that you had just gotten back from Puerto Rico on October 31st of 2009, right?
Yes.
And that was about 5 days before the shooting occurred, correct?
I believe so.
Right. Well, you said 5 days was the worst he'd ever seen, so that's right, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Now, you talked about him picking you up from the airport,
Yes.
and he was speeding,
Yes.
and you described him driving erratically, right?
Yes. It started out okay, but then the minute he starts looking at the rearview mirror and the side mirrors, I knew what he was thinking already.
You knew he was thinking. Would you agree?
I agree.
In fact, you told all of your son's doctors about that, didn't you?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
No.
Do you recall telling Dr. Orlander something different?
Like what?
Like he didn't pick you up?
It's possible.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
You just told me that it was a very memorable event.
Now, here's the thing.
You just told me it was a very memorable event,
Yes.
didn't you?
Yes.
And now you're saying it's possible you said somebody else entirely picked you up.
It could have been my cousin. It could have been my other son. but I believe it was Jason.
So, you get back from Puerto Rico on October 31st, right?
Yes,
And then you've told us that you saw all these things that he was doing that were very strange for those 5 days.
yes,
You said that he was sweating. You said that he pulled a gun on you.
yes,
Now, you already had his guns taken away, right?
yes,
At one point in time.
yes,
And you knew before that night that he had a gun, didn't you?
yes.
You never called anybody to take this gun away, did you?
Not at that time,
Not at any time.
no. No, I didn't.
Because the next time he used that gun, he shot people, right?
Sir, I had my mind on getting him Baker acted, getting the gun away, calling for support first.
Ms. Rodriguez, we're going to get to that,
Okay.
okay? So, you never had this gun taken away despite the fact that you knew it, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet. And you knew that the police would come and take it if you called, right?
Yes,
And when he was mentally ill before and you saw signs, you had it taken away in 2007.
yes.
But this time you didn't do it.
No, sir.
And in fact, this time he pulled the gun on you, is what you're saying.
That morning?
Yes,
crack
ma'am.
of dawn? Yes.
And you never called anybody about taking that gun away, did you?
I could not find my phone.
We'll get to your phone. But you never called anybody.
No,
Didn't call your son, Stephen.
no,
Didn't call law enforcement.
no, I didn't.
And you've said that this was going on for 5 days.
Yes,
All 5 days from the time you got back from Puerto Rico until November 6th of 2009.
yes,
You were making these observations the entire time.
yes.
Your statement, your phone was missing the whole 5 days?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. So you had the ability to call.
Yes. And I beat myself up about all this every day.
And the morning of the shooting, you saw him get his errand envelopes and leave sometime around 9 a.m.
Yes.
And can you tell us the people you called for those 5 days to get help for Jason?
I might have spoken to someone about it.
You might have.
Yes, because I can't recall the calls I made.
Ms. Rodriguez, you just said it was the most important thing to you to get help
Yes.
and support.
Yes.
And you can't recall who you called or if you did call anyone,
Yes.
right?
Because I made the decision that day.
You made the decision this day.
Yes. I was there 5 days. By Thursday, I was thinking about it. And what happened that crack of dawn, I was going to do it.
Okay, so let's take that. It happened at the crack of dawn, right? That he pulled the gun on you.
Yes, sir.
And then he left at 9 a.m., right? Around 9 a.m. Would you agree?
Or a little after.
Okay, let's say a little after 9 a.m. He left your apartment.
Yes.
You're alone.
Yes.
And you said you found your phone that day
Yes.
because
It
somebody
rang.
called you.
Yes, it rang.
Do you remember who called you?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
No, I thought maybe it was Pico Rewrite an associate because I was trying to get him I was trying to help my son get his Social Security because I saw my son the way he was and I felt he needed treatment and he needed to me, he couldn't work like that anymore.
Okay. You thought he needed treatment, so you wanted to be able to pay for it.
No, I thought we had to try to do something about all this.
Well, let's go back to the phone call. An attorney called you on your phone, is what you're saying.
Most likely, could have been someone else.
Somebody called you.
Yes.
Did you tell them that your son was acting this way?
No.
Did you ask for help of any kind?
No.
Did you dial 911 once you found your
No,
phone?
I didn't.
You said you went to the leasing office, right?
Yes.
You didn't tell anybody at the leasing office.
No. The leasing office was closed.
Oh, it was closed. How did you get to the leasing office?
I went down.
Did you walk or drive?
Walk.
Later you drove to Albertsons, right?
Yes. That's further away.
You had the ability to drive,
Yes.
but you didn't.
When that happened?
You didn't drive to tell anyone that your son needed help.
No, I didn't have my car.
You didn't have your car.
I let my son take my car.
You could have driven his car.
No, I don't drive those big tall cars. No.
Even in an emergency?
Yes.
You stated earlier that this was a house on fire emergency, your son's mental health, right?
Yes, something was going on. It was worse than before.
Yes, it was. It was worse you'd ever seen it. That's what you said.
Yes.
And you couldn't drive a big car.
No.
It wasn't that serious, was it?
No, I'm too chicken for big cars. I'm scared of big cars.
You also said something, Ms. Rodriguez, about not knowing where Jason worked. Right?
I'm not sure. But I
Well,
didn't.
what are you not sure about?
I don't recall the names.
Okay. You said that you knew he worked, but not where. Correct?
Most likely.
You don't recall the names.
Sometimes I don't.
Okay. What about now? Do you recall the names now?
Well, since I've read on this,
Okay. So now,
Papers.
after you've read, you
Mhm.
recall the names. But
Some
back
of
in
them.
2009, you didn't know the names, did you?
No.
Because he never talked to you about where he worked, right?
No.
And you're saying that your son, Jason Rodriguez, never told you he was angry at his former employer.
No.
He never told you he was treated unfairly either, did he? According to you, right? Did you ever go to his work?
Not there, no.
Anywhere?
One place,
Where did you go?
Subway,
Okay. You never went to an engineering firm.
no.
You never talked to his boss.
No.
You never saw his termination records.
No.
You never saw his unemployment records.
No. Don't recall.
You don't recall. You don't remember seeing anything about that. Before this incident.
I don't recall.
Do you recall talking to Sergeant Ahern on the day of the shooting when he made contact with you at Albertsons?
I don't recall his name, but there was someone there that spoke to me, a police officer.
Do you remember having a conversation with him about your son's former employer? The one you say now you don't know anything about.
I don't recall.
You don't remember that.
No, I was actually telling him my son was ill and he was having treatment, but that was after he told me that my son did something very bad.
Correct. After he told you he was in trouble, you told him something about his mental illness, right?
Yes.
Right.
That he wasn't well.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor. May we have-
You may.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you may be excused. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to take our morning recess. We will recess till 20 to the hour of 11. Please follow all of my previous instructions. We'll be in recess.
Jury exit.
May be seated.